And so I just want to say that it's going to be very, it's just the tip of the iceberg about communication and conversations, okay? So just to give you a roadmap of my sharing, just going to go through the art and science of communication. What do conversations actually do? And as well as how to set up the stage for conversations, and finally connecting through conversations. I just want to say that I'm not an expert. I am learning as I go along. The friends that I have here in this group of people here, a lot of them will know that actually between me and my husband, I'm not the talker. Correct, ladies?
Yes.
They all know that when I'm not the talker, and I find it hard to actually have conversations. However, the one thing that has driven me to this topic is because I find that the conversations that I have with my husband are the things that bring us together. And as I realize that there are many of our friends who sometimes they go through life just having very, not to say surface, but as I go through the sharing, you'll know what kind of conversations you have with your husband. So I just wanted to be able to encourage all of us to have the deeper conversations with our husbands. Okay, so this cake is a delicious version of what a communication model will look like. It's actually the way it's cut out. When I found it, I was like, oh, perfect fraction. Okay, communication is about the expression of feelings and meaning. Okay, and a psychologist, professor, Albert Meridian, had come up with this communication model, and I think it's not an uncommon thing for you all to know already that the whole cycle of communication, 55% of it comes from nonverbal communication, meaning that if I could see all of you right now by your facial expression, your eye contact, the gestures that you do, or the way you're sitting, whether you're like that or you're up front, I'll know whether or not you're interested or not interested, right? Your grooming, all this is part of non-verbal communication. Written is the written form, okay? And then there's 38% that is the way we talk, okay? Our tone, the volume, how loud or how softly we talk, and of course the speed. Whenever you're excited, you tend to speak faster, and when you're more relaxed, you speak slower and things like that. So all this plays into communication. And finally, actually there are only 7% that people actually hear the words that we use. Okay, whether or not it's the jargons or the slang that we use, the choice of words, only 7%. So given that only 7% is actually absorbed by people when they listen, it makes even greater, there's a greater need to make sure that whatever that we want to say, we want to make it sure that it means something. And I want to bring this into context of marriage again. Okay, so assuming that has a wife, right? The way I non-verbal, okay? The way I carry myself as a wife, you know, my facial expression, if my husband is late for coming in through the door, I'll be like, why are you so late? You know, straight away, all that. The minute I don't even have to open my mouth, he will know that I'm not happy already, right? And the way I stand, the way I look, my posture, everything will indicate that I'm not happy. So that all that is what we mean by how we communicate with people, okay? And effective communication also is not about just talking. It is actually 2/3 listening and 1/3 talking. And this I got it from one of our marriage courses that we're attending. So it's very important to know that it's more important to be listening than it is to talk. I know some wives find it difficult, but we just have to curb ourselves sometimes and listen to our husbands. All right. And listening in itself, there is a whole segment of effective listening. I think people like Grace and Louisa, who have been through the coaching program, you will know that there are things called effective listening, right? So next, I just want to share with you this quote that I took from this book. Okay. Conversations are not what we think they are. We've grown up with a narrow view of conversations, thinking that they're about talking, sharing information, thinking, telling people what to do, or telling people what's on our minds. We're now learning through neurological and cognitive research that a conversation goes deeper and is more robust than information sharing. Okay, this is the interesting part. They evolve and impact the way we connect, engage, interact, and influence others, enabling us to shape reality, mindsets, events, and outcomes in a collaborative way. Now, this book was more skewed towards leadership. However, I felt that the content, if we can delve into some of these things, it will help us strengthen our marriage. And that's why I wanted to bring this up. Okay. It goes on to say that words are not things. They're representations and symbols we use to view, think about, and process our perceptions of reality. And they're the means of sharing these perceptions with others. And unhealthy conversations are at the root of distrust, deceit, betrayal, and avoidance, which leads to lower productivity, lower innovation, and ultimately lower success. Now, given this entire quote, you know what brings to mind are times when we, our parents or our bosses, you know, growing up, I think most of us are at the same age group where we may have had parents say, stupid don't know how to do or useless like you can't be like your parent, your brother or sister, you know. So all that kind of, the way they talk to us, the way they talk down to us has impacted us. That's what this whole research is saying. It has impacted us, and it has caused the way we think. And so, of course, the one way of looking at it is our self-esteem. Those people who have always been talked down to or spoken negatively about, our self-esteem is affected, right? But it also affects the way we carry ourselves and the way we think about ourselves. So that, again, will lead into the mental health. And so that's why how important these conversations are, how we talk to our husbands, how we talk to our children, and all that. So I just wanted, and this is part of the reason why I thought that this was very important for us to be aware of. Okay, and this is a little bit technical, but just wanting to give you conversational anchors where if you look at the bottom, there's a word called amygdala, and that area is the part of our brain that is runs on instinct. Okay, so whenever we have when the brain thinks that we're in fear or in danger, it reacts three ways. It either fights, flees, or freezes. Okay, and so and that is where distrust comes in. Okay, and on the other side of the brain, called the prefrontal cortex, is where how trust is built. And that area is where our conscious and executive brain works. So the more we feed the prefrontal cortex, then it feeds our level of trust. Okay, I know this is getting very technical, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but I just wanted to tell you that this is how the brain works, and this is how conversations can impact our brains. All right, so going into the 3 levels of communication that I wanted to talk about today. All right, we have level 1, transactional, which is passing of information. Level 2, which is positional, sharing of ideas and opinions. Level 3 is transformational. That's where we're trying to head towards, being open with feelings and our needs. Okay, so just give you an example. of what is transactional. How was your day? What did you have for lunch? What's for dinner? Standard questions my son will ask me. Right after lunch, will be like, what's for dinner? Okay. That's for me to then pass the information. Oh, we're having this, we're having that. Okay. And then I'll tell my husband, hey, Ian has tuition today at 4. Or Ali is a random name, okay? Ali has ballet at 8 for those who have daughters going for ballet classes, all right? Or this is very common as well. I'm so stressed at work. I've got so much to do, right? So these are things that we are common in our day-to-day conversations in our families, okay? And all this are just very transactional. They're actually just passing of information. It doesn't go very deep. Level 2, oh, the last one, your mother called. I had to throw that in. Okay, level 2, positional, sharing of ideas. Okay, this can help drive some form of communication as well. So things like, oh, what did you think about that movie? And then, you have some form of discussion and sharing of opinions, right? Or then there are the times where you say, I think you should tell your boss this, or what I think, right? I think we should do it like this. Or the next one, the final one, which is very relevant, is, are you going to take the vaccine? You know what I think we should do? So all this is your opinions and whether a sharing of ideas, but more so opinions. Okay, so what I want to encourage us to go towards is transformational, and that's being open about our feelings and our needs. And I wrote here, conversations that build more positive and cohesive threads that takes our relationships to a deeper level in our marriage, so that it creates greater connections, stronger bonds, and closer intimacy. Okay. I wanted to share, I don't know when is a good time to show you this. Let me just show you this. This is I'm actually in my bedroom, okay? And I have this is a 2-seater couch that we have in our room, okay? And just wanted to share that this is where my husband and I have a lot of our conversations. Whether or not I was telling Grace and Louisa, is where we put on weight as well, because we have late night coffees and have a piece of cake, and that also helps spur the information, the conversations. Yeah. So I just want to share that because and I know where I will tell you where later. It's because atmosphere also helps to spur our conversations. Okay. So just to give you a little bit later on when you guys break into the breakout room, just want to give you a few topics and ideas of what transformational conversations may look like. Okay. If in case you guys have not explored this with your husbands, I hope that you guys will take some time to you can screenshot this or whatever, and then use it as a conversation piece. Okay. Now, setting the stage up for conversations, creating a safe space. What do I mean by this? We want to, whenever as husbands and wives, we want to make sure that we create, because when we create a safe space, when we want to have open conversations, it means that we want ourselves as well as our husbands to be vulnerable, to have trust towards us, knowing that whatever that we share will be between just the two of us. It will be something that they can share in transparency, without fear of being mocked, without fear of being judged, without fear of being laughed at, because as husbands, sometimes whenever they are working, especially if they are men who are at higher positions, leaders can be it's a very lonely place because there are not many people that they can talk to. So when they come back to the home, they want to know that the home and their wives are safe spaces where they can share their burdens, they can share their worries, they can share their confusion, because they don't know everything, and sometimes they need a sounding board, right? Just like we wives, sometimes we just need to blare it out. Not that we need our husbands to provide us answers, but we just want somebody to listen to us, right? So likewise, I think husbands nowadays, they also yearn for that safe space. Okay. Number 2 is timing. Don't, go to your husband the minute he walks, parks the car, walks into the house and says, "Lokong, or husband, I have something to tell you. I need to tell you," right? His mind is not settled yet. He has just come back from work, and he's just, whether or not, okay, nowadays the traffic not that bad, but in those days, be like, "I'm frazzled from the traffic and you want to talk to me right now." So find the right time. And again, having a couch in your bedroom it helps with timing, right? So sitting on the bed is just as romantic, all right? Any form of calm place, oasis for them to be able to talk, think about the right time to bring up certain subjects. And this, I just wanted to also share with you. I've also learned sometimes my husband has said things to me that sometimes can puzzle me or can hurt me. But I choose not to either retaliate or to rebuke him right there and then, because sometimes when he's talking, it may be in the midst of an emotional thing. So I will click it in here and I will save it for another conversation, because I find that that's not the right time for me to address that issue. And I'll actually save it for a time when I realize that maybe, during some of our evening walks, when I know that he's very calm and collected and that I can bring this up, then I bring it up. So it doesn't necessarily have to be right there and then. So again, that's just an example of timing, okay? And finally, asking permission. This one, I actually just realized this recently, because my husband has a tendency to ask my permission, say, "Do you mind if I say this? Or can I ask you this?" And it was very strange for me at first, because I'd be like, "Of course you can ask lah," or "Of course you can tell me. Why must you ask permission?" But what I realized he was trying to do was that he was showing me respect, in the sense that, is this a good time for us to be talking about this? Can I ask you this, right? He was showing me love, again, love, respect, and just care and concern to make sure that I was in the right frame of mind, in his perspective, to make sure that I was in the right frame of mind to also talk about things. So anytime he felt that he needed to interject, he'll just say, is it okay if I ask you this now, or can we revisit this, or should we revisit this later? So things like that, okay? So those are just some of the things that I picked up to help. Hopefully it will help you guys set the stage for conversations, okay? And finally, at the end of it all, we want to know that whatever that we talk about with our husbands, it's always from our heart and our mind, with the good intention of wanting to know each other more, to connect with each other better. Okay, so I think I'm at the end of my sharing.